When I was a kid, I was probably like 4 or 5. My cousin had a Super Nintendo with a game that was the Avengers, and you could play as Captain America and Thor, and I think Hulk and maybe Iron Man. I loved it, and it was the only thing I wanted to do. And he and I were like weirdly close for people who were 5 years apart because he was very patient with me as a young child, and so he would always play the game with me because he loved me. But he got tired of playing that one game over and over. And I remember one night I was like, "Can we please play the Avengers?" And he was like, "Nah, I don't think so." And I was like, "Okay." And he tried to surprise me by putting the cartridge in backwards with the title facing away. And we had a pretty interesting time trying to get that back out of the Super Nintendo when he realized they didn't fit in that way. And that's my earliest Avengers-related memory.
For those of you younger than cartridges in our audience, imagine you download an app, but you click it and it is broken.
So you blow into your phone.
And that app works
shove
again.
it into Nintendo.
That's a cartridge.
I thought it was a type of bird. And a cartridge in a pear tree. Hello, and welcome to Two Chunks and a Hunk, our movie podcast where we give pumps and dumps. My name is Jordan Wonders, and this week, I'm your chunk.
I'm Doge, and that's my secret. I'm always chunky.
My name is David, and I'm the Infinity Hunk. Yeah. Nope. Ask me how long it took to come up with that.
How long
I just came up with it.
I approve. That's fine.
Cool. Well, you can't recycle that when we get to Infinity War.
Nope. I won't need to because I'll be thinking of something even more extraordinary than that.
Well, as you can probably tell by our intro, this week we're talking about
Spider-Man
the Avengers.
What did you say?
He said Spider-Man 3. It's the Avengers.
Now dig on this.
What?
That's shit from Spider-Man 3.
So the best way that I can personally think of to get started is to scoot on over to my friend Doge for a synopsis. Do it.
The Avengers. Is there a person alive today who was also alive in 2012 that did not see the Avengers?
My Mima.
Okay. Well, Jordan's Mima, this one goes out to you. The Avengers is the story of a group of heroes that we all got to know through their solo movies.
True.
Banding together to really stop Thor's half-brother, not even half-brother, Thor's adopted brother, from ruining the whole world.
Or you could argue owning the whole world.
Or that too.
That's the part. That's the main part of the plan, I think.
That's the main part of the plan. And so in this movie, they have to learn to work together as a team and to not be, as Bruce Banner calls them, a time bomb. So they work together as a team and they, spoilers, save the day.
Classic.
And the Avengers are, as a unit, born.
Assemble.
Yeah, they assemble.
Let's hit it.
David, tell me how.
Hold my hand, baby. Let's do it.
What do you want to know?
Let's get started.
Show me the world,
Here's what
Aladdin.
happens. It opens up.
Yep.
Loki is back.
Yep.
Our first death of the MCU, which wasn't a real death. However, thinking about it now, I'm glad that they at least showed that he was alive in Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus some of these other, like,
oh, here we go.
Bucky comes back like 2 or 3 movies later and it's like, oh, it's here the whole time.
I feel like you hate that particular element. I'm going to have some great things to say about it that'll make you angry when we get to Winter Soldier.
So, Loki's back and we see him with a creature called the Other, who is the leader of the Chitauri, which
Who has
is
2 thumbs.
Very important information.
He has 7 fingers, doesn't he?
I don't know.
I think he has like 2 thumbs, 2 pinkies, and he is one ugly boy.
Way more than the standard number of fingers.
I want you to imagine if the Other was the main villain of this movie.
Okay.
That was the Justice League.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. The emissary for the real big bad. Yeah.
So if Zack Snyder was over the MCU, we would have the Other being like, I'll go down myself. And at one point he would say, for Thanos. And then
everybody like, what?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
And then the movie would be over. Anyway, the Other gives him a scepter, which we realized was given to him by Thanos. We don't know that at the time, but Thanos gives him a scepter. And it is what we find out later in Infinity Stone. It's the Mind Stone. And
For the purposes of this movie, though, we can just regard it as a mind control stick.
Scepter.
The scepter, Loki's scepter. But it's given to him to go down and receive the Tesseract to give it back to Thanos. In return, Thanos will give Loki rule over the Earth.
Yeah.
So, love his character motivation, Loki.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to Thor. He wants to rule. He wants to rule.
Yeah, that's what he
his whole
says to
thing.
Thor is like, I was the rightful king. Yeah.
Love that. Can I dump though?
Yeah, please dump away.
Do it.
So
Spray first.
And I want you to be I want you to be on board. I want you to dump a little bit because I know I love this movie. But don't pull a Captain America and just get mad at me for dumping.
No, I've got dumps.
Okay. I'm gonna dump. So Thanos' plan is to give Loki an Infinity Stone to go get him an Infinity Stone. That's a poor investment.
Wait, what Infinity Stone is he going to get?
The Tesseract.
The Tesseract. Yeah.
So if this was Shark Tank,
Which Infinity Stone is the Tesseract?
The Space Stone.
Yeah, okay.
And Loki's scepter has the Mind
Right.
Stone in it. We find out in Age of Ultron.
yeah. So, but Thanos knew this.
Yeah.
We're not going to assume Thanos was like, "But there's a stone in there."
Yeah,
like,
no, he knew.
Yeah.
He knew. So if this was Shark Tank, that investment was, I'm going to give you $1 million to go retrieve $1 million. That's called a high risk, high reward type investment.
But
was he gonna-
Because he could lose both $2 million.
But I think the general idea is that he's definitely not going to. Isn't the idea that it's too early to reveal himself? So he wants to send essentially like a representative to go get it?
He doesn't want to get his hands dirty is what I thought.
Because I'm with you that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, except in your analogy, it's lose $1 million to gain $1 million. But in this, it's lend $1 million to gain $2 million.
Gain $2 million. But with the possibility of losing both $2 millions.
Yeah, but imagine if you could lose $2 million and then stomp and throw a moon through the planet that you lost the $1 million on and just get it back again.
But to that point,
Why doesn't he just do it? No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I will also dump on that logic.
And here's the other dump. Using the power of the Tesseract, it opens a portal from space.
Sure.
For Loki to end up in the opening scene of Avengers.
Sure.
And his one task was get me the Tesseract, I'll give you an army.
Sure.
The Tesseract's in Loki's basically hands in the opening scene.
Sure.
So why doesn't he 100-yard dash sprint, grab the Tesseract, go back through the portal, hand it to Thanos and says, I'll take my army now. And they go through the same portal that they just opened to let Loki
He needs
go
the
through.
Tesseract to open the portal in the first place to get the army there.
But he went through space to get to the opening scene.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I'm sorry. What are you talking about?
So in the beginning, David's saying, why didn't they, in the beginning of the movie, why didn't Loki run through, grab the Tesseract, and then before that portal closed, grab the Tesseract and run it back to Thanos,
And then the
say,
army
okay,
comes through that very same
same
portal that
portal.
they opened at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I
the
didn't
only
think
thing I
about
can
it
think
until
of-
this morning. I was just like, wait, because the whole climax is we opened a portal to space, and that's when the army's coming through.
Sure.
But he opened a portal to let Loki come through at the very beginning.
Devil's advocate, and I'm with you. I
Yeah.
agree. But devil's advocate, I think, would just be that Loki is a showboat. I mean, they talk about that. He likes pomp. He likes
Yeah.
showiness. And so my only thought is he wants to attack New York specifically.
For all we know, that could have been the plan because Loki later has a conversation with the other where he's like, hey, as long as I've still got the Tesseract, all you have is words. So
And another Infinity Stone.
so as far as we know, that could have been the plan. And Loki
Yeah.
was like, no, I'm gonna, because we've seen that in Thor.
That's
that-
his big thing. No, he doesn't say as long as I have the Tesseract. Remember, he says, until I receive my army.
Yeah.
All you are is words. So maybe his thing was like, I don't have an army yet. You don't get the Tesseract yet.
Yeah.
But I will say a little more clearly spelled out would have dispelled a lot of the story weirdness at the beginning. So I'm with you.
And that's something that kind of runs through this movie. There's a fair amount of story weirdness that things happen just because they have to happen to get us to the Battle of New York.
Okay, I'm going to say something right now. I'm finding myself less a fan of Joss Whedon as time goes on.
Really?
Yeah. I don't dislike him by any means, but I think I think Joss Whedon tends to have a little bit of that bright color Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, he's a little style over substance.
Yeah.
And this one, I referenced it in the intro. The quote, "I'm always angry," super cool. And it's an awesome moment when, spoilers for the very end of this movie, when Banner willingly turns into Hulk.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
It also doesn't continue like that for the rest of the series.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things, like you were saying, that just kind of happen because that's the way that they happen in this movie. There's not really a good reason.
Now, to be clear, still love this movie.
Oh,
This
for
movie
sure.
is so fun.
I love this movie. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I just watching it now for like the 28th time.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm able to pick some things out and say,
Well, and I think part of it for me has been watching it now that things like Winter Soldier and Civil War are out, where I'm like, that's what I'm into now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Maybe it was a taste change. I don't know, but that's what I'm into now.
And I want to talk.
I think the genre has evolved.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, and before we jump into going through the movie, this movie as a whole, this was unprecedented.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Like bringing characters, we talked about it a little bit before, bringing characters that could sustain their own movie
Together like
and
that.
bring them together.
Yeah.
And one, have it not be so convoluted that there's no plot to follow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
two, have these actors be willing to be a part of something that they're like, wait, I'm not the
I could carry it myself.
I'm not the main character.
I'm
like
with you.
people, I mean, I assumed, because I didn't know too much back at that time, I would assume Robert Downey Jr. would have been like, no, like this is my movie. I'm at the front. But to have such humility to be like, no, this is all of us.
Well, and I think they're all just, I mean, you look at it now, I mean, this is kind of a sidetrack a little, but they just released that 10-year photo. I don't know
Oh
if
my
you saw
gosh, that picture is so cool.
Dude, and it's one of those things where it's like, I genuinely think that everyone is just excited to be a part.
I know.
Like, I really do think that
love
they're all
it.
just like,
Except
this is the
Ed
coolest
Norton.
thing.
Ed Norton was reportedly really soured on big
I'm
budget
sure he
blockbusters
was.
after The Incredible Hulk.
And
was he in that photo?
I think he was.
Really?
I don't remember seeing him in that photo.
It was everybody that had ever been involved.
He may have been. I hope he wasn't next to Mark Ruffalo because that
would be
just
great.
uncomfortable.
But-
Mark Ruffalo's smiling real big. And
Okay,
everyone
I just want to
just-
point this out. If you're listening at home, go find this picture, find the high-res version, find Jeremy Renner, and
Yes.
zoom in. Because Jeremy Renner, Paul Rudd, and Mark Ruffalo, is it Mark Ruffalo? Is that the other person?
I don't remember. Who the
It's
third
Jeremy
one is.
Renner, Paul Rudd, and one other person are all smiling so big and excited, and right next to them, Don Cheadle looks like he's asleep. And it is just like these three people who are just like, and then Don Cheadle who's just like, what are we doing?
My
again?
legs
Oh,
are
for
broken
God.
in this
Yeah.
universe, so I don't know what you guys are
And I
smiling
know Don
about.
Cheadle loves it because I've seen interviews. He just looks so serious in his picture, and it's the funniest thing.
Well, and I also want to talk about, because before this movie came out, we all saw this trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first trailer at the end of Captain America was like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
I can't believe this is coming. The trailer looked a little bit weird. I think coming back at this movie, the movie did feel a little like just tonally weird.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was the Super Bowl, like when the big trailer dropped.
Yep.
And the circle up, which I'm sure we're gonna get to that scene.
We're gonna get to that scene.
But I wanted to get there first because we saw that before the movie.
right.
going in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That circle up scene where they're circling the Avengers in New York, surrounded, and you were like, "Holy crap!"
I can't even handle it.
I can't wait for the money because there's that money shot in this one. Then there's the slow motion one in Age of Ultron where they're like
Through the
flying
woods?
Through
Yeah.
the woods.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some sort of huge
for
money shot in,
Be like
in Infinity
40
War.
of them.
It's gonna
my
be like that
gosh.
high res Marvel. It's gonna be like
really is.
500 people.
Oh man, I want it to be everybody who flies up in the air, everybody who doesn't fly on the ground.
The Secret Wars, the
poster
comic
and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody's just going ham. So
but we're not talking about Infinity War,
No.
although I wish we were. We're talking about the original.
The anticipation for this movie as the first movie to actually bring the comic book style and
Yeah.
feel to
Yeah, yeah.
the cinema.
Yep.
And they did that in that one shot.
Yep.
So back to the movie. Loki comes. I love how the movie starts. It just you're there. I'm so glad it didn't just.
This movie has to happen pretty quickly because there's so much. And for all our griping at Joss Whedon, like I do not envy his job in this movie.
No, and I don't want to sound like I'm only griping at Joss Whedon. I do appreciate this movie a lot. I just think I find myself liking his decisions less as time goes on.
Yeah.
But Loki comes back and he, with the power of the scepter, which we know is the Mind Stone, controls Eric Selvig and Hawkeye. We haven't seen much of Hawkeye.
Only Thor up
Only
in the
Thor
rafters.
that cameo.
Yep.
And I want to give a pump to making Hawkeye a villain because I thought that was a great way to show his actual capability rather than just having him be a hero.
Yep, I agree.
It was.
Well, and like we've talked about it a little bit before, but I just want to go ahead and while we're talking about it, pump on Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye.
Yeah, he's great.
Love Hawkeye.
goodness.
He's really, really good
He's
in this.
so good.
So he controls them. He escapes. Nick Fury says, we got to get the Avengers together
Yep.
because we need a response team. And then we have basically the character openers for the remaining Avengers besides Thor.
We have the first 45 minutes of Justice League that play out over the next like maybe 10 minutes of this movie.
And I did contrast it with Justice League in my mind.
I did too. I think
for
that's
sure.
unavoidable at this point.
I honestly don't think I did. I think I tried to push Justice League as far out of my head as
out of your
possible.
mind.
Yeah.
I did because it's a superhero team up movie.
Yeah.
And you have
The
to
first one, the putting the team together.
the first one. And you have to almost have this scene of where are they now?
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
lame
yeah.
as that sounds.
No, I agree.
But something that I want to say, you definitely in an animated film, you kind of extend the boundaries of what could happen in your mind.
Right.
Like it doesn't have to be tied to reality. And when you finally come on an actual cinema with human beings, like Batman in the animated series punches a metal dragon and we're like,
Yeah.
but then he does that in a movie where like really his hand didn't break. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Zack Snyder. Yeah. Really tied that one to reality.
Definitely a double standard.
So I think there's a real double standard there. But in Justice League, every character opening is exactly what you would expect from a superhero movie. It's like, what are they doing now? Fighting, saving the world.
Yeah.
And I did not like that, but it was so different in Avengers because the character openings were not their superhero; it was their actual.
Which, I mean, it's what we talked about last week.
Marvel's, that's MCU though.
Yeah.
MCU is about the
100%.
identity.
Because the question is never where's Iron Man right now. It's what's Tony Stark doing right now.
100%.
Where's Captain America? What's Steve Rogers
Which
doing
I
right
do
now?
want to say,
What's Bruce
I know
Banner
we're
doing?
kind of dragging through this beginning, but it's just because there's so much here.
Yeah.
A huge pump for me for this movie and just for the MCU in general. Avengers, and I reflected on it for a long time after watching this. Avengers set the stage and the tone for the rest of the MCU.
it really did.
This is the first movie that we've watched in this series that I've been like, okay, this is starting to feel like home base a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this sets up perfect. I mean, everything all the way through Civil War, even.
Yeah.
The conflicts of New York, DC, was it Sokovia?
Sokovia.
All of it starts to stem right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when it comes down to it, a lot of Civil War is about taking responsibility for the actions, but is also about identity and the privacy of the individual party.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that Marvel has done so well is like, they've even proved with Infinity War, they're going to kind of, I mean, Cap's not really Cap in Infinity War. I mean, he is.
Yeah.
But we
he's
don't care
Steve.
because he's Steve.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's crazy.
And I think you touched on it. They do a really good job of addressing what happens in the past and not just writing it off as they figured it out.
Yeah.
So it's like Battle of New York, Spider-Man, Homecoming. They're like, we're going to address the fact that these things needed to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
And there could be weapons lying around
Yeah.
from
Sitting
alien
around.
technology.
Yep.
It's set up really well to be, and there's a principle of dramatic writing that I think was set down by Aristotle. So to get
Such a nerd.
to get real academic, but
look at me, I'm done.
but everything feels like a necessary and yet unexpected consequence of the things that came before it.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably, like we're saying, the greatest strength of the MCU is
agree.
that everything builds on everything else.
I agree.
So Loki needs to find this device that can harness the power of the Tesseract. So Clint goes in to steal it while Loki creates a diversion, and he's met by Captain America and Iron Man, who kind of team up for the first time to fight Loki. And that's a great scene.
Huge pump for me on the scene, basically from the start of Loki walking outside and making everybody bow all the way to the end. Everything from the old guy standing up and saying like, I'm not going to bow to you.
Yeah. There's always men
There are
like
always
you.
men like you.
Cap showing up to
I almost
AC/DC.
cried in that scene.
Dude, me too.
Yeah.
I was like,
That was
oh.
awesome.
There are always men like you.
But then the AC/DC starts to blare and you're just like, oh, here it comes.
Well, and I think something, I don't know if you like this or not, but it really showed Captain America being the same age as that old guy that stood up.
Yeah.
And he was like, last time a guy stood up over everybody in Germany, we didn't get along. And when he did like a tornado kick and was like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
It was like, it was Power Rangers. Kind of.
Yeah, it really was.
Like,
but that
he
kick
might
is
as
so
well have been
cool.
like, hi-ya!
I think what he actually said was not today.
Which I think is what it was. It was something like that, but I just died.
Slow down, evildoer. Yeah, 100%.
So Loki surrenders.
Yeah.
And they take Loki on the plane to take him to basically shield Nick Fury. While they're in the plane, thunder comes a rumbling.
Yeah.
And I love when he says,
I'm not especially fond of what comes after. Yeah.
and Thor enters this movie by superhero landing onto the back of the plane.
100%.
But I'm so into it.
Oh, for sure. It was the best.
Also, thank Odin for Thor's no longer bleached eyebrows.
I
Yes.
spent the majority of the time that Thor was on screen in this movie thinking two things. One, he looks like a normal person. And two, I'm so glad that he eventually figured out how to have cool looking long hair. Because
Yeah.
it a little bit looks like he's the lead singer of an 80s hair metal
Yeah,
band.
he looks
Yeah.
really pretty.
For
in
me,
this.
his hair didn't look great until Thor 2,
Yeah.
Dark
Yeah.
World. That's when it was like, oh,
Well, and
yeah.
guys
Thor.
with long hair typically look really stupid.
agree.
Like
Very.
it doesn't ever look good.
No,
Right.
for
So-
sure, for sure.
For those of you listening at home and not watching, Doge has remarkably long hair.
I can tie it into underwear and be completely naked.
But this does leave a pretty significant plot hole for me, which is the Rainbow Road's smashed.
Well, that's what Loki says. Loki says,
"Oh,
how much
power
dark power did
the All-Father have to conjure?"
Which is why the Tesseract lets them go back at the end, because it's a power source.
I get the Tesseract bringing them back. Don't get Thor coming.
Well, Odin sent him
Yes, how?
power.
Oh, thank
magic.
you. Thanks so much.
You just don't understand it.
No,
yet,
I'm a
though.
little with you because it's like, then why do we have the Rainbow Road in the first place? Yeah.
So I think it's implied that there is some sort of cost for Odin to use this dark
Yeah.
magic. Like,
I mean, it's one of those things you kind of have to just write off. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, thanks for keeping Jane safe. Now we can move on. It's just like we have to kind of address it because someone's gonna raise their hand and be like,
why isn't Natalie Portman in this?
So we'll just like give them, like literally throw them a bone
Yeah,
and
yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a dump for me, but
So now let's talk about that fight between Thor and Cap and Iron Man
I
in the
love
woods.
it.
so much.
Historically on this show, we've kind of dumped on like it's their first time to meet each other, so they have to fight. It really works for me.
Well,
right here.
here's why it works. It's because there's a reason.
Yeah.
A reason is given. Thor's trying to get his brother. He doesn't know Iron Man. He doesn't know Cap. And so when Iron Man comes in and says, "That's our prisoner," Thor says, "No, that's my brother." They fight. And then Cap jumps in and just says, "Stop, we're done."
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the end of the fight. It's not this long drawn out like, "Why did you say that name?" Like, it's just like, it's just like,
Odin.
it's just like punch hammer, punch rocket, punch laser, ow, 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 shield. Hey, knock it off, you nerds.
I do want to take a minute and pump just the moment where Thor like blasts Iron Man with
Yep.
all the lightning,
That's
and
exactly what I was
then
thinking
Jarvis
of.
is like, "Power is at 400%."
And he goes like,
Oh, what do you know?
interesting.
Well, how about that? Yeah, that's so great.
And then he just chest cannons him.
I kept waiting for that moment whenever he was fighting Whiplash in Iron Man 2, because I kept thinking like, I kept
yeah.
thinking that was when that moment happened.
Yeah,
But it's here, guys. It's in this movie, and we all watched it and know about it.
it's true. So huge pump on that scene.
Yep. They take Loki.
Yeah, they take Loki, they bring him on the helicarrier, where they've also, we didn't really talk too much about this, but we're introduced to Bruce Banner. This is the first time we see him as Mark Ruffalo.
Love it.
Huge pump.
Big pump.
And we realized that Mark Ruffalo at some point in time, or sorry, I should say Bruce Banner at some point in time got really low.
Mark Ruffalo, the actor.
Mark Ruffalo got really depressed. No, Bruce got really depressed, tried to kill himself, and Hulk
woke
spit
up,
the bullet
yeah.
out. And so he realizes
Gosh,
not only can
that's
he not
so cool.
destroy Hulk, but he also can't kill himself.
Speaking of Hulk, by the way,
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. Dude, I love her in this movie.
Yeah, she's
because
great.
she is more than what she was in Iron Man 2. She all of a sudden is a fully fleshed out character
Yeah.
who is bad to the bone.
She demonstrates much more capability in this. In
Yes.
Iron Man 2, she was a little bit just like hot girl who fights. And in
Yeah.
this, she feels like a person.
Yeah.
Well, she's a
for
member
sure.
of the team.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
she
she is.
contributes something, and I love it.
Let's talk about Black Widow for a second.
Yep.
Because I have one question.
Yeah, I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna
What?
say the red in my ledger thing.
No, we already talked about that. Yeah, she should be 100% Russian, but we can move on.
She says that she is Russian in this movie.
Yeah, she says, "I have red in my ledger." And she says it in a completely American accent.
But
Yeah.
she also says, "I'm Russian." She literally says the line, "I'm Russian." I don't know what else you want, David.
You can kill accents.
I don't
that can
know.
happen.
But
Remember when you talked about throwing people a bone? They wrote that line where she says, "I'm
they
Russian,"
threw it to me.
specifically for you.
I caught the bone and I threw it out and said, "Then make her Russian." Okay? But that's not what I'm going to talk about. My thing was, in retrospect, I see this chemistry between her and Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the moment when I watched this movie for the first time, I could have sworn she had a relationship with Clint.
Yeah, no,
with
me too.
Hawkeye.
Yeah.
My question is, did they revert later and say, we're going to give Clint the family that comes in Age of Ultron and he's married and Natalie's just a best friend, because she doesn't say we're best friends until later. She's like, my best friend would have been a cherished memory because of you. So she's talking about Hawkeye. And then they move her romantic relationship with Hulk. But in this, it really felt like there was something more than just a friendship.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's possible to read this as like that really kind of intense camaraderie of like
I think
almost
you're
like
trying
siblings.
to brush over the fact that they changed their mind about the romantic
I
I
feel
don't
like
know that
they
they
did,
did because
I think
I don't
they
know
did.
that it's set in
No,
this one.
100% the vibe that I got was that her and Clint were like kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But
and
I think that's extra textual information.
It was-
you know what I mean? Like it's fine if it's fine if that's the way you read this. But then as the text of this universe grows more complex and more detailed, then I think as we revisit these earlier entries, have to take
but
those
what if
later ones into account.
What if the way that I read it is the way that it was written?
Then they've
You know what I
they've
mean?
changed that though. The canon, like that's what I'm like.
Well, I think-
the canon is changing as it's being added to and codified later
I think
on.
the important part is it still holds up knowing what we know now.
Yes.
You can read this in the context of, oh my gosh, they're just great friends.
Yeah.
But I do think that they may have changed their
I'm with
mind.
you.
So I just wanted to address it and then we can move on.
Yeah.
So
When you use big words like codified, you make me feel small. And I'm the chunk. I'm supposed to be big.
So Loki is now on the helicarrier with all of the Avengers.
Pump on the helicarrier.
Yeah, the helicarrier is so cool.
so
That
cool.
moment,
Like the actual ship.
Yes,
yeah,
it's
that
so
moment
sick.
when Cap wakes up, or when Cap's in the gym, and he's like, "There's not much that surprises me anymore." And Fury's like, "Bet you $10 you're wrong."
Yeah.
And then when the helicarrier takes off, and Steve just slips him that $10 bill, that is so great. Also, by the way, I was looking at the official timeline for this.
Yeah.
Captain America is unfrozen from the ice, something like April 23rd, 2011. The Battle of New York is like May 4th or 5th or 6th,
he, like, just woke
2011.
up.
He's been awake for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Well, that's why he's
That's
still
kinda how I
in
read
the-
it.
Yeah, me too. But I do want to say this while I'm thinking about it, while it's fresh in my head. Enormous dump on his costume in this movie.
Oh my gosh.
It's my least favorite Captain America costume.
far.
I hate it.
Easily my least favorite Cap costume. I forgot. Like I remembered it as much worse than it was though.
No,
Like it
not
didn't
for
bother me as much in motion. In pictures, it looks horrible. It looks like he has no chin.
I think I remembered it better than it was, and then watched this movie and was like, oh.
It looked great in the case when
Yeah,
he looks
yeah.
at it, and then from when he put it on, it was
It's
terrible.
too bright.
To me, it looks like a really, really, really well-made Party City costume.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Well, and I think the thing that bothers me about Cap's costume is it looked cooler in 1940
Yeah.
Yeah.
than it did in modern day. But I think also he wasn't as big.
In this, I agree.
He was skinnier.
Yeah, he was
which
smaller.
makes, I mean, I hate to be that judgmental, but it does make it look less like a superhero and more like a Party City because
Where
Chris
those
Evans,
pecs at?
Chris Evans is so scrawny.
Where are those pecs
What a
at?
little guy.
he's like not scrawny. I don't think he's scrawny by any
No.
means, but he's definitely not as big as he was when he came out of the hyperbolic chamber because he's been sitting frozen for so many years.
He's atrophied.
He's got
dude.
them cold pecs.
So technically, it makes way more sense.
Hey, if I may, ice pecs?
Yeah.
Like ice pack?
Yeah, I dig it. I'll dig it.
Ice packs.
I'm getting a thumbs up from Adam the sound tech. So
So anyway,
So-
we're on the helicarrier with Loki now.
We're on the helicarrier. They're all discussing on basically how we should move forward.
Yeah.
Through a series of events by Stark and by Captain America. And actually, I want to take a second to just give out my super pump because I think it really happens on the helicarrier more than ever. But the relational dialogue in this
Yep.
movie is my super pump.
Yeah.
interesting.
I think it's Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
100%.
It is. That's kind of what he's known for, is that really like snappy back and forth
Yeah.
Well,
dialogue.
Favreau was involved in this a little bit.
Really?
His name was in the credits.
I think not only does it depict an actual relationship and real tension happening, but it's funny.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's
Completely agreed.
It's quick. It's fast paced, so you don't feel like you're just watching.
And it's not just
People
filler
talk.
though. Like it's all important things.
all important information.
Yeah, yeah.
my super pump is kind of tangentially related, but I'm gonna hold on to it. But I do just want to.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and pump on this
Pump
with
with
you.
you.
Like
I'll,
it's really.
I'll
it's,
pump with you. My
I
super pump
completely
is
agree.
very different from this, but I'll pump with
When
you.
I think we've talked about it before, especially in DC. There's a difference between a moment and a scene.
Yeah,
yeah.
A scene is dialogue, it's character development. A moment is just cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Avengers have some enormous moments.
Yeah.
That are some of the dopest scenes that we've ever seen in movies up to this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Circle Up, for example.
Yeah.
But that only is as powerful as the dialogue and the scenes that happen before it.
No.
And because Joss Whedon is so good at writing and writing dialogue and making us feel for the characters, it makes those moments so much more powerful because we knew what it took to get there.
Yeah.
So that was my super pump, just going
That's
back
great.
for the 28th time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just seeing like, oh my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah.
And I'm never taken away or taken out of the movie by a long dialogue scene.
Right.
No way.
Because it's
Well, 'cause
cut and it's written so well.
There's some of the best parts. I completely
Yes.
agree.
Yeah. Again, because
Bruce
Marvel's
and
made us.
Tony back and forth. I'm never like, ugh, science.
Because Marvel has made us care about the characters.
Yeah, I
like
agree.
we're not just like, oh, shut up, Tony. When's Iron Man coming back?
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're never every time Iron Man comes on, we're excited, but we weren't like finally.
Yeah.
Because we're so cool with Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that almost in a way, because I know we've talked a little bit about how boring fight scenes can become if you rely on them to carry your movie too much.
Yeah.
And I think in a way that makes the fight scenes better.
I mean, this movie ends with like a 25-minute fight scene.
And I was never over it. And
Completely
I
engaged
and
the
that's
whole time.
opposite of me most of the time.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like.
But they're in the helicarrier and they put Loki in this giant steel or I guess glass bulletproof prison
Designed
where-
for Hulk.
Yes. Well, and we kind of get a tidbit of that when he says, it is an impressive cage.
Yeah.
Not meant for me though.
Yep.
And you're like, I didn't catch that when I first saw this movie, but now it's like, ooh, that
Well,
was
I
designed
love
for
when they
Hulk.
call him the monster later on when she calls him a monster and he's like, no, you brought the monster. And she's like, all right, gotcha.
Loki's plan is to unleash the Hulk.
It's so good.
When I love when Banner
When Eric Bana.
when Banner comes to this movie and says no, but when Banner says, "Where am I going to stay? You rented out my room."
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
But
So yeah,
they're fighting about what to do. Captain America finds Hydra's weapons.
Yep.
Tony Stark hacks into all of Nick Fury's secrets, both coming to the same conclusion that S.H.I.E.L.D. plans to use the Tesseract to create a nuclear deterrent.
Yep.
And that creates all sorts of
Drama.
What should
Well,
we
and that
do?
sets up the rest of Captain America's arc throughout these movies. Not to steal too much from our discussions coming up, but like
no, it does though.
that's
I agree.
his arc of like, okay, now I can't trust. It's not as simple as it was before I was frozen. I can't
Yeah.
trust authority,
Dude,
and that sets up
I'm
Tony's
telling you-
arc of like,
Yes.
I'm responsible. I've facilitated
Yes.
the development of these world-ending weapons.
And I would honestly say, that it sets up Black Widow's arc of trying to bridge that gap between the two.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
say that it sets up even kind of Thor not really caring about any of that stuff. Like
You're so petty and tiny.
yeah,
everybody in this movie, and to Marvel's credit, everybody in this movie is consistent with what we even have now. What 6 years later?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's impressive to me.
That's really, really great.
So as they're fighting about what to do moving forward, Clint Barton, who is still under the influence of Loki and the Scepter, comes to break down the helicarrier, and really, I guess you could say, to unleash the Hulk.
right.
Yeah.
So Iron Man and Captain America are about to fight, and they're like, "Suit up, let's go a few rounds." And then
Crashes, boom.
crash, and he's like,
Suit
"Go
up.
suit up, go
Yep,
suit
yep,
up."
Put the suit on. I love
so good.
that.
They have the entire scene on the helicarrier.
Yep.
And very similar to Age of Ultron 2, they take a hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The team is down, and we have our third fake death with Coulson.
Well, and
Okay.
let me go ahead and say this right now. The death of Coulson in this movie, first of all, it's canonical for me because I don't care about Agents of
Exactly.
S.H.I.E.L.D. But second of all,
but it can't be actually canonical.
fight me on it.
It's like saying Rocky 4 didn't happen. I'm with you.
Rocky 4 is the best one, so why would I say it didn't
Rocky
happen?
5 didn't happen.
There you go.
Excuse
Thank you.
Okay, so here's the thing though. Rocky 5 was released in the same manner as part of the same
Agents
series
of S.H.I.E.L.D.
of
is
things.
barely acknowledged.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the connection works one way. It goes movies to TV, never TV, to movies.
yeah.
And so if we bring Coulson back,
Yeah.
that is very problematic for our character motivations going
Cheapens the
forward.
lesson.
It cheapens
for
everything
sure.
that happens from here on.
But you can't say that it's not canonical because it 100% is.
Well-
the TV show isn't happening. Like, they literally bring him back episode 1 from the movie.
But here's the thing, though, up your butt. And so,
I'm with you. I want Coulson to die, okay?
but
he's not
my super
dead.
pump or
Yeah.
my super dump for this movie is the death of Coulson.
Really?
Yes, because I think, and the number one reason that it's my super dump is that it is a waste of such a wonderful character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that could have been ongoing.
See, I don't
Still
think
is.
it's a waste if we let him stay dead.
No. I agree, but the reason that it's my super dump is I think that. For me at least, finding another way to bond them and keep Phil Coulson in the universe of these movies would have been so awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that his like the stuff with like the cellist that lives in Portland and like all that stuff that he talks to Tony, and I love his relationship with Pepper and how like Tony gets all weird
And
about
Cap.
it. Yes.
I feel like there's got to be a version of this movie where Fury's the one that dies. You know what I mean?
And
like
I
where
think
Fury dies, and then Mariah Hill is head of Shield.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's what happens in the comics. Fury
Sure.
dies, Mariah Hill's head of Shield.
yeah, which first of all, pump on Mariah Hill. I
yeah,
think
yeah, she's great.
But
Robin kills it in this.
I'm very comfortable with the fact that Coulson dies just because I've had time to get used to it. But it still is probably my least favorite aspect of this movie is just that, in my opinion, it's such a waste of a great character.
Well, I have good news for you. He's still alive.
Wait, how?
That I'm not sure because I didn't watch Shield.
Exactly.
it's very convoluted and ultimately not super logical.
Yeah.
And again, like if I'm allowed to step outside of this, can I give 2 super dumps?
What? Oh, I'm sorry. We have.
I'll give a
rules.
super dump. Okay, I'll give a super dump for this movie, but then I'll just give I'll throw a super dump out into the universe. My super dump out into the universe is whoever said we should bring Coulson back.
Yeah.
Because people won't watch our TV show without somebody from the movies.
Right.
That's exactly what that conversation
Yeah.
felt.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just an extra. That's a 2 for the price of 1.
You just
you
threw
go.
that into the Tesseract and it went somewhere into space.
Somewhere into space. It's hanging out with Red Skull and his
It
army
is
of space
definitely
Well,
Nazis.
then
Red
why
Skull.
didn't we just bring the super dump back with us through the portal at the beginning and have the Tesseract?
Because I have 2 super dumps and
What
you
an
have
interesting
0.
question. Yeah, you took his super dump and you used it. You threw it to the Tesseract.
Okay.
Anyway, we're scattered
Yes.
at
Yeah.
this point. Hulk's on the ground.
Hulk's on the ground.
Thor is also on the ground.
Guys,
broke up.
hang on. My super pump for this movie
Yes.
is The Incredible Hulk. Not the movie The Incredible Hulk, the character The Incredible Hulk.
Okay.
And you're throwing that now?
I'm throwing that now because
Whoa.
this is where we see him. He is incredible
Yeah,
in
he's
this.
awesome.
I mean, after I saw this movie, I remember talking with my friends, and I mean, this was 2012, right? When this came out. So after seeing this movie,
friend.
so talking with my 0 friends that I had because I didn't know you guys yet. I remember saying the Hulk is easily the coolest part of that movie, and he's the reason I want to see this again.
Yeah.
And every time I've watched this movie since then, which is probably close to 15 to 20 times, my opinion is the exact same.
Yeah,
Hulk is
great.
so
Am I
good in this.
imagining this, or did this happen where he's about to turn into the Hulk? I know he like looks at Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Or does he say like run or get out?
No.
No,
I don't think he says
just look at her
anything.
and
Yeah.
just like, oh shoot, this is about to happen.
Yeah.
But I did feel like I read a little bit in his face of like, not ideal.
I love that scene where he
yeah.
looks at her and he's
Yeah.
like, oh shoot.
Mark Ruffalo, and I don't know if Mark Ruffalo counts as part of my super pump.
Well,
if
he's
pumping the
fantastic,
Hulk.
so whatever.
Mark,
But his,
Mark
like,
Ruffalo is the only person to ever play Bruce Banner and the Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've always been either Edward Norton in CGI or
and-
Lou Ferrigno and the other dude.
Hulk Mark
Looks
Ruffalo
like-
face
yeah.
is so good.
So good.
Yeah.
so
Mark
much better.
Ruffalo's like nervous kind of energy that he brings to this. Like I totally buy that at all times he's like in the back of his mind, like
I could Hulk out.
like something bad could happen
Well,
and I could kill everybody.
And I think Mark Ruffalo really does a good job with the intentional meekness that is Bruce Banner. Like
Yeah, yeah.
just the intentionality behind being like, everything's cool.
It's
we
all
got
fine.
this.
All right.
Well, and then while we're on the helicarrier, I'm going to throw out my super dump that comes up later in the movie as well, which is Clint and Natasha fight, and she bangs him on the head really hard, and so the Infinity Stone, one of the most powerful relics in all of the universe that can control people's mind, is useless if you bang their head really hard.
Well,
David,
first of all,
listen
she
to
didn't
me.
bang it; she bonked it.
Listen
And
to me.
second of all, that's how science works, man.
That is also my super dump.
whoa.
What does she call it?
It's crazy.
Cognitive reconditioning or whatever.
Yeah.
I think she was being sarcastic though when she said that.
I know, but
she
like,
was,
I
but
think
that-
that's a joke.
it is a
It is
joke.
a joke to bring light to the fact of how ridiculous that
It's
is.
a joke that lampshades how stupid that element
And it
is.
happens to Eric Selvig as well
Eric
too.
Selvig too.
Like,
Yeah.
when
I
it-
hate that.
After it happened
'Cause
to
he gets
Eric,
bonked.
after it happened to Eric, I was like, okay, clearly the Mind Stone is fake.
Yeah,
let me
for
let
real.
me paint this picture for you. It's Infinity War, Avengers. Half the team is under mind control by Thanos. Black Widow remembers. She comes on the comm system and she goes, "Hey, you gotta bonk him good." And then all of our strongest characters go around just going whack, 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 playing
What
whack-a-mole.
happens?
with
They get the Super Smash Brother hammer. They go dun, 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 and just hits people's heads until they all come back.
Cap looks Hulk in the eyes and says, Hulk,
bonk. And then Hulk goes, me. Flies
Okay,
off.
so the team is
So
scattered.
good.
Yeah, team is scattered, and they use Agent Coulson's bloody cards to bring them back.
Love
as
that it was a
team.
prank.
Yeah,
Great, got you guys.
Got you so
Tricked
good.
you.
I love it. I think it's great.
they really got some makeup artists to bring some blood on those cards because.
That's the wettest fake blood.
Oh yeah, I
He
mean,
throws it and Quentin Tarantino splatters all over this glass table.
so
I actually really hate that because that also undermines character motivation a little bit. When Fury makes Coulson's death out to be more than it was, then the Avengers are essentially part of their founding is a lie.
yeah, which might come up maybe.
It might come up maybe, but
if
It might come up, maybe.
but still, like that's
If Coulson,
that's kind of a
Coulson
dump for
comes
me.
up in Civil War, or not Civil War, in Infinity War, and just like, hey guys, and they're like, everything was a lie,
Yeah.
and then Infinity War happens.
So that's kind of a small dump for me, and I don't know if I feel like that shouldn't have been in the movie or if I just feel that Fury is a jerk for doing that.
yeah.
But
I don't think there's ever been a time though where Fury has claimed to be anything other than manipulative. To be fair, like he's
yeah,
a good
that's
guy.
true.
It's a very good point.
He's a
That's
good
true.
guy, and he wants what's best, and I think he does like care for the well-being of the team. But I think he's proven over and over again that like
He'll manipulate.
subterfuge is his deal.
as,
Like,
as Tony would say, my secrets have
He's
his
the
secrets have
spy.
secrets.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
the spy.
Yep.
So they're separated. Tony Stark has a conversation with Loki.
Sure.
Because Loki is about to open the portal that Eric Selvig
On top of
built
Stark Tower.
On top of Stark Tower. And we get the incredible line, which from Tony Stark says, if we can't save the world, you can be dang sure we're going to avenge it.
Yeah.
And he says, I have an army. And he says, we
We have a Hulk. And then we see the Mark 7 suit, which is
Mark 7 is awesome.
so tight.
It's so good. It's my
love
favorite suit up to this point, and then quickly brought down to silver when we have Age of Ultron. I love the Age of Ultron Iron Man suit. It's almost all
I even
red.
like the Iron Man 3 suit.
The one that's
Man 3's
super
good too.
gold.
Yeah.
Like he looks naked in that.
I think it looks cool.
I love the almost all red in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But so really now we're at the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
The portal opens up and we see all these aliens like getting ready to fight.
I love that they're like waiting outside the door to the
Yep.
portal too, which is so
Yeah.
sick.
It opens up and we slowly are introduced to the team coming back. Captain America comes with Barton, who now has a very serious vendetta against Loki.
Yeah.
They crash their plane, which again goes back to Captain America. When good guys crash planes, they're like, whoa!
They skid, yeah.
And they go back to fight.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they're kind of just dispersed throughout New York fighting. They haven't really teamed up yet.
Yeah.
Thor,
They haven't assembled.
yeah. They're the giant dragon comes down.
Sorry, you mean Space Worm?
The giant space worm comes down.
Slugzilla.
Giant slugzilla comes down. Any other nicknames for
I'll
it?
think of one.
Okay.
Well, let's keep going.
That's when they're kind of all assembled at
Toothy Poop.
The Toothy Poop comes down
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're all assembled and they said, has Banner come yet? That's when Banner shows up on an old little moped. Yeah. And he delivers the line which we talked about. I'm always angry.
Yep.
Very dope in that
Super
movie.
cool in the moment.
Hulk's out, one punch.
Jumps a quarter mile.
Yeah. I love that scene that immediately follows that when Cap is giving directions to all the Avengers and like kind of taking charge
Oh,
as
I
leader.
love
And
it.
I really felt in that
That's my
moment.
favorite part of that scene.
I know.
Call it Cap.
I can really feel in that moment that Steve's like, okay, I know how to do this. Like I've been.
And Tony's realization
Is this the
of,
scene when
you're
they're in the
leader.
circle and we get the circle shot?
Yeah.
Congratulations, we've reached my super pump.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily the shot, but what it represents.
Yes.
Which is the first time that the MCU became about something bigger than individual movies.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
obviously the Avengers movie, but like in that moment, they were a unit, they had assembled, they were ready to go. And I've never watched this movie without being like, oh, when that scene comes up. I just get so hyped on it every
It's
time.
so great.
Can I tell you one fix that I have for it? And I think everyone's thought this. But you circle up and you see Powerful God, Super Soldier, Iron Tech, Black Widow with a pistol.
Yep.
A pistol. I'm like, girl, that has like 8 bullets max. She's gonna go boom, boom, boom,
You've
boom, boom.
been shooting already.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, is it too much to ask that she just like, she's the Black Widow. She can come up with like double Uzis and just be like, bring it. But instead she has one pistol. Who gave her one pistol?
I think the thing about
Fury, probably.
her is that we're to assume that she is tactical. You know what I mean? Like surgically precise.
But this is war. This isn't espionage.
It is, but her, like, she does prove to be useful.
She does.
In this fight.
And I thought she should have had either like double Uzis or
What's up with you and Uzis, man?
I just need them, you know? Double Uzis, maybe bazookas, but maybe even one of their
Like
alien technology.
a cannon that she could roll from a
where
castle.
she's like, man, I'll figure out how to use this. And she just has that.
She does later.
Yeah,
though.
she gets one.
Not in the
And
circle shot.
You know, she uses it and then throws it down, and you're like, there's like
They're
infinity
disposable.
amounts
It's
of
one shot.
It's a one-off.
I will say, I want to pump on when Cap catapults her up onto the flying moped.
Yeah. That's super
I
cool.
can tell you the best moment in that Battle of New York, besides the circle up, is when Iron Man blasts Cap's shield and he
Oh my
reflects
gosh,
it.
yes,
dude.
it's so cool.
I jumped
So
in the
sick.
theater. I was like, whoa!
I'm still I'm still waiting on something that cool to happen again.
Yeah,
It was
that was
so
awesome. That happens, and then when that moment is we're called back to that in Civil War,
Yeah.
in that final showdown of Civil War,
Yep.
which is an awesome kind of dark mirror of this.
But that was everything that brought me into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Their collaboration and their fighting style came to life in Avengers, where you realize they're not just like spiritually a team now. They are functioning as a team.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh
and,
my gosh.
And they're even like it becomes a greater than the sum of their parts type situation.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes in this whole movie. This is so weird that the best part of a movie, in my opinion, is the fight scene, but it is, man.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
it really is.
and the scene where Iron Man's flying and they're calling out him and Clint are calling out to each other. He's
yes.
like, bank hard, they can't bank well.
Yeah, they can't bank
And he's
well.
like,
Yeah.
I'm coming back around, send me more. And it's just like this like tactical, like create a grid system and we're coming this way. And when Cap's like, set up a perimeter and the cop's like,
turn
who
him
are
back
you?
or turn him to ash.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've just put this Blu-ray in and been like,
Just this-
I'm
just
the
gonna
fight
watch
scene,
the last
Just the
25
Battle of New
minutes
York.
of this.
Heck
I know,
yeah.
it's so good.
Takes up Legolas and
Yep.
Yep. Oh, I love it.
Oh, it's so
good.
freaking good.
And I think the crowd favorite, if the crowd had a super pump, especially at the time of this movie. Yep. It's where
100%.
Loki says,
Yeah.
"You daft, monster! I'm a god."
Yep.
He picks him up by the legs or by the cape?
leg.
Yeah.
By the
Yeah.
legs, and just literally Hulk smashes him.
Yep.
That scene in the
Puny
movie.
god. Yeah.
Every time I watched it, I never knew what he said because people were
Dying.
applauding.
I know
Yeah.
people were like cheering. Yeah.
So really, that's the Battle of New York. We've talked about a few of those individual fight scenes working as a team.
So it's the World Security Council decides that the best way to beat these aliens is to nuke Manhattan.
Yeah.
And so,
Why?
yeah, for
Hey,
real.
and let me go ahead and
It's
say
an
this about the
overreaction.
World Security Council. I'm glad that as time went on, they became more than faceless, like
Yes.
nameless screens. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad that.
I'm watching you, Fury. You're like,
Yeah.
who's this?
Yeah, I'm
We
glad
see
that
him
it
again and
became.
we're
Why is he
older.
backlit?
Yeah.
But and I'm glad about that. I'm glad
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it became like these are senators. These are people with
Yeah.
political positions. These
Yeah.
are not just like I'm your boss and I'm on a screen because it's V for Vendetta Part 2. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
A for Avengers.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think right to your point, that was a very
Super overreaction.
a very impulsive decision to blow up
Nuke it.
all of New York City.
But
And
also,
Fury's like, wait, don't. And they're like, nah, nuke it.
But also, overreaction, completely understandable. Untested team of metahumans that the majority of people have not seen in action.
And aliens.
But I also
And
feel like
also the first appearance of, we saw what happened in Thor when they leveled that little bitty New Mexico town. And this is an entire army of aliens flying down into the sky over New York City.
But I feel like someone could have said like, no, dog, there's a portal. You're going to destroy all of the people, and then more aliens are going to come. So you're literally
Yeah.
you're,
not gonna do
terraforming
anything,
for
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
But
go.
maybe
Back to
Nick
terraforming.
didn't. Maybe Nick Fury didn't know that. But as that's happening, we can kind
Nick
of
Fury
definitely.
also has one of the best lines in the movie here that I can't repeat because we're a family podcast.
But meanwhile, kind of
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice,
my super bump kind of or super bump.
super bump.
Did we just invent a third category?
My super bump. It's the best song in the movie.
My super dump is, definitely related to this, but Eric Selvig wakes up and Natasha falls off or jumps off right on top of Tony Stark.
Sure.
And they say, wow, his scepter's here, which was like, whoa, that was
It looked out.
perfect.
Yeah.
Because what if that was just like on 58th and 6th? No one knew it was.
Yeah.
So she has the scepter in hand, luckily. Eric Selvig wakes up, luckily. And then she says, is there any way to turn it off? And he says, you know what? Under the power of the Infinity Stone, where I was controlled and my mind was completely thwarted to what Loki wanted me to do.
I still made a failsafe, though.
I made it feel safe.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So
I feel like they were kind of written into a corner with that.
it's true. But that was like dump on dump on dump.
Yeah.
Everything had to happen perfectly.
That particular sequence is not great.
Distinctly Deus Ex Machina to the max there, and I'm not a fan.
So she says,
I still love it.
I can close the portal. And Tony, which love his sacrificial.
Yes.
Oh my
young
gosh,
being.
it was almost my super pump.
Yeah. He goes underneath the missile, is taking up the wormhole, ready to sacrifice himself to close it. And love, should I give Pepper Potts a call, sir?
Yeah.
Calls Pepper. She's watching the screen. Her phone's ringing, doesn't see it. Love that she didn't answer. Goes up.
Because there's nothing he could have said on the phone that would have been good enough for the audience to be like, that's a good goodbye.
Am I crazy for thinking that at some point we hear like a voicemail that he left her at that time or something?
Maybe in Iron Man 3.
Because I can't remember. I feel like
So maybe.
I will say one thing that I love about this scene, just to that kind of note though, is like what it sets up for like the trauma that he experiences. And it's so good.
feeds into his PTSD of where he can't stop
Love
making
that.
suits. Yeah.
Goes up the wormhole. The missile flies into the Chitauri battleship, mothership, you could say. And Iron Man starts to slowly fall back down. They say he's not coming out. Close the portal now. Closes it, and right before the portal closes, he falls through.
Am I crazy? Didn't the boost from the nuke, didn't the shockwave kind of push him out?
I think so.
That's what I thought.
I love that he does that because it's a great callback to when he and Steve are arguing on the helicarrier.
You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play.
Exactly. And I
he
love
does
that.
it.
I love that. I do think like
Always a way out.
if this wasn't the first Avengers movie, it would have been very appropriate for Tony to die at that point.
I completely agree. And it would have been very characterizing for Cap to have to kind of eat his words in such a hard and sad way.
Which I wonder if that will happen in Infinity War. I kind of, at this point right now, my leading theory for myself is that Tony will make the sacrifice play.
I think Tony or Cap might die in Infinity War, but we'll get there.
I think Cap more than Tony.
Either one's gonna make me so sad.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna hate it,
I know.
but I'm gonna love it.
I just think I don't think America's ready to not have a Robert Downey Jr. even like
I want him to
slightly.
do. I think he should do what he did in the comics, though, because in the comics,
He becomes Nick Fury, kind of.
currently he's dead or in like suspended animation or whatever, and he's uploaded his brain neural patterns or whatever into
Like
the
a
computer.
Jarvis type system?
And he's the AI in Ironheart's suit. She's currently Iron Man.
I like him being Nick Fury, essentially overseeing all of the Avengers, but never really going into battle anymore. I think they'll go more that direction so that he can have these consistent cameos and Cap's gone.
This is semi-unrelated, but is related. I think that the death of Cap would give them such a strong rallying point as a team.
Yes.
But man, I'm gonna hate it so much.
I know.
But they also set you up to have two replacement Caps, both Bucky and Sam Wilson,
And
who have both
Falcon,
been Cap in the comics.
Anyway, that's several movies from now.
sure.
While we're here, I do want to dump on the fact that the Chitauri are apparently like a hive mind or something because you blow up their battleship and they all die like Trade
Yes.
Federation droids in episode 1.
Yeah.
It's very easy because the movie has to end, and you can't be like, all right, mop up crew.
Clean up. Yeah.
I actually think it's kind of cool though. I think that would probably be the general idea behind keeping the ship in that side of the portal, being like, if they can't blow up the ship, they can't stop us. They weren't expecting somebody to fly a nuke into
I
space.
just
But
feel like
are
they're,
they
they're
a
not,
hive?
they're not robots, they're aliens.
Yeah, are they a hive mind? They seem to be individuals.
But hive minds are real things, not just in robots.
Yeah, but they seem to be individuals. A hive mind would be like the queen is on that ship, and she's controlling them in the same way that I'm like moving my fingers right now.
Yeah,
Like they don't have will of their own.
I mean, the only answer that I can give is like,
Yeah, that's a good point, though. I hadn't thought of that.
you know,
Anyway, so small dump on that ultimately doesn't really affect my enjoyment of the movie.
Sure.
Hulk rushes to save Iron Man at the last minute.
Yep.
They rip Iron Man's mask off. They don't know if he's breathing, if he's alive. Hulk
roars.
screams.
Love it.
Wakes up, says, we got to try some shawarma.
Nobody kissed me. Let's eat some shawarma.
Robert Downey Jr.'s reaction when he wakes up is awesome. And I love that we can read into that, like knowing what we know about Tony, having been through now 3 movies with him, that those reactions are like, he's kind of using that to mask
He's deflecting,
how terrified he is.
Yeah, for sure.
Did he improvise that shawarma line?
I think he did.
So does that mean that end credit scene with them eating shawarma was just because he happened to improvise a hilarious line?
It was shot way after.
It was shot after the movie premiered.
Really?
So the movie premiered, had like their big red carpet premiere, and then they shot the shawarma scene and added it for the nationwide theater release.
That's awesome.
Because Captain America Chris Evans had a beard.
Yeah,
They
that's
had
why his
to
back's to the camera.
CGI.
I
Also
love how tired they look.
Yeah.
Just eating in
perfect.
silence, just the sounds of like noses and chewing and just like,
Well, and the way that I read it, and I think Joss Whedon said something along these lines, but we had worked so hard up to this point, and every end credit scene was like, here's what's coming next. And this one was like, guys, we're done for a while. Let's just enjoy this for a second. Let's take a breather.
Because it was a year until another Marvel movie came out.
yeah.
It was
that
spring,
used to be the pattern after
spring
every
2013.
after every major one, there was a year between.
Yeah.
and it was always May, and it still is.
yeah.
May is.
But now there's a bunch of
Super
other
Bowl.
months too.
Yeah,
now
for
we're
sure.
3 a year, which is fantastic.
I'm into it, so whatever.
Anyway, so the fight ends.
the fight ends, and Thor and Loki go back through the Tesseract.
Bruce and Tony drive off.
Cap has the dopest jacket on that Harley.
Yeah, that's
sure
a really
does.
cool jacket.
I need to find that. We need to Google that after this. Remind me. And they kind of question Nick Fury, like, "Where's the Tesseract?" And he says, "I'm not saying I gave it away. I'm just saying I didn't argue with the god that said give it to me."
Yep.
I'm sure Loki's going to pay for his crime. Kind of didn't, but that's okay.
Well, he got put in a glass cell for a long time.
I would have to watch Dark World again. I don't really remember what happens with
He's just in a cell.
Loki.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Like they kind of set it up to be like,
His hair's long and he's dirty, so
he didn't shower for
then
sure.
am I in prison?
They kind of set it up to
your
be
own
like, you thought we were going to torture him? Like, oh no, Asgard's going to get what they want. And then he's like in a cell, like by himself with like couches.
he's not dancing. Remember, he's like, "You must be
You must be truly desperate. Yeah.
Did we not talk? Because I want to very heavily pump on Tom Hiddleston again.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and say, like, I have a standing
pump.
a standing pump on anytime Tom Hiddleston's on screen as Loki.
When he was they were supposed to have 2 villains in this movie. It was going to be Loki and somebody else,
then
which
they're
I
just
could
like,
see.
nah.
But because they saw Tom Hiddleston throw himself into Thor, they said, I think he can do this on his own. And
I think he can
did
too.
he.
Yeah.
And after this movie, because I don't think it was after Thor, after Avengers, after seeing Tom Hiddleston, they said, anytime we can throw him in a script,
Let's just add
throw him in a script. And
Yeah.
there I say, heck yes, throw him in the script.
good.
But he's
Great
only
idea.
after Avengers. He's only been in Thor: The Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok.
Because that's really the only place that it makes sense to bring him in.
Yeah.
But he's gonna be in Infinity War. Is he? Yeah,
Oh,
he's in
for
the trailer.
sure.
Yeah, he's in the trailer.
Yeah.
Guys.
And he's like, you must be true.
Again.
I love it. So really, that's this movie.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. Except
anything-
we get our post-credit scene.
Oh yeah.
Our post-credit scene of the other talking to the mysterious figure seated in the chair,
right.
and he says,
Who's revealed to be Thanos.
That's the first
to
post-credit.
challenge them is to court death. And then Thanos turns around and smiles.
which
Big old grin.
comic book nerds would know this, but in the comics, Thanos is dead, and they need to destroy like half the population of Earth. They say Thanos can do it, so the character Death, who's a woman, brings back Thanos, and he courts her, falls in love with her. I think he actually marries her. And
I wasn't aware that he was dead.
Yeah, he was.
I thought
he was
doing
killing
all of-
people
killing
to impress her.
death.
No, Thanos. In the stories I read, Thanos was dead. She brought him
Well,
back
did you
to
make 'em
life.
up?
I did. No, these are my written
wrote
stories.
them. Yeah.
This is my fan
To
blog.
be fair, if you go on to Barnes and Noble or wherever you buy your Marvel comics and you look for Avengers Infinity, there's
a billion
There's
continuities.
several
I
arcs
read
where
Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, and so there's Infinity Gauntlet, there's Infinity War, there's Avengers Infinity. Like this particular story plays out several different times in several different
The
ways.
way I always have it in my head is that he's trying to impress death by creating the most death.
In Infinity Gauntlet, he asks for more power to destroy what she's asking him to destroy, and therefore becomes more powerful than death.
Interesting.
And so he's literally he courts death. She loves him, but he's more powerful than her now.
It's comics, so there's a great chance that
We're all right.
We're all right.
Because isn't it a big deal eventually that doesn't Deadpool start to date death and Thanos doesn't like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that a big thing? Okay.
Yes. And they get married as well. But so I think that's really
our
this movie.
first glimpse of Thanos.
Since we're done talking about the movie, it's time for us to rate it. Mm-hmm. We here at
Yeah.
Two Chunks and a Hunk have come up with the perfect system
Yep.
for rating movies. It's the scientific cinema scale.
Yes.
Yes.
It's infallible.
Yes.
It
It is.
is perfect.
Yes.
Flawless
Yes.
science.
Yes.
And so we're going to walk you through that scale right now and get to rating. So the best thing we can ever say about a movie is own it, don't lend it, buy that poster. Right under that, next best thing is just going to be buy it. Spend your hard-earned dollars and cents. Buy this thing. The next best thing we could say is rent it. Spend a couple bucks.
Not all your bucks.
Not all your bucks, but some of your bucks. And take those bucks and use those bucks to get your movie on.
Yep.
The next best thing that we could ever say is stream it. Don't spend extra bucks.
Yes.
But if your bucks are already going towards a streaming service that costs no extra bucks to watch, yeah, go ahead and
Make this part
do
of those
that.
bucks.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
include that in the bucks.
Yeah.
Right underneath that, the next best and second to worst thing we can say about a movie is forget it.
No bucks.
You're better off if you just pretend this movie didn't exist. Put zero of your bucks or cents towards this experience.
Yes.
And then finally, the worst thing we could ever say about a movie is something we have dubbed God hath forsaken us. But something tells me we're not going to need that end of the scale for this.
No way.
So, Doge, would you go first?
I would go first. Oh my gosh. Okay. I say it every week. I own all these movies, own the special editions. The question becomes, is it worth it? Absolutely for this movie. I hate to do this 2 weeks in a row. Own it, don't lend it, buy that poster.
Okay.
This movie is so good. And I know we just spent the better part of an hour talking about, well, this is kind of dumb, this is kind of dumb. But something about this movie, this is so much more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Yep.
I enjoy it. So like if I were to list this like it was a grocery list and say these things are all in this movie, I'd be like, nah, I'm not going to super love it. But somehow it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, I think the Own It, Don't Let It Buy That poster, or in all of our ratings, it's not the absence of problems or the absence of mistakes. It's the presence of glory.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it an Own It, Don't Lend It, Buy That poster.
Yeah, you are.
Wow.
To what this movie did for me in 2012, to what it still does to me to this day, the number of times I've watched it alone, it is one of the only movies that I think I can give that 100%.
Yeah.
And love myself for it.
I feel like this is going to really diminish what I'm about to do.
Forget it.
I'm going to give this movie a buy it.
Yeah, I knew that. That's okay.
I love this movie. I think this movie is awesome.
Obviously not.
I don't want to be I don't want to be a loosey goosey when it comes to my Own It, Don't Lend It, Buy That posters but I'm going to stick with buy it. I love it. It's fantastic. I think that buying it and having it as a part of your collection is a definite good move.
Yeah.
For me, it's not the pinnacle of everything the MCU could be, but for me, it is the spark that ignited what everything the MCU could be.
I think it was the pinnacle at this point.
Oh, yeah. Well, at that point, it definitely was.
Yeah.
And honestly, if this was 2012 and I had just seen this movie and none of the ones beyond it, my ears would still be bleeding because they were for 6 months after I saw this. But
It is hard to go back to what we've seen now, but I think this movie, just where it stands as a solo film.
yeah. So at this point
the
for me,
poster.
it's an easy buy it. And I say that not to diminish how good that movie is.
No,
by
yeah,
any
for sure.
means.
Yeah.
So now that we're done talking about it, we've got some people to thank. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want
Shout
to give,
out,
we
you
want
may
to give
say.
some shout outs to some people who hashtagged us or did some other things. So the first person we want to say thanks to is Carter Willis. Thanks, Carter. We want to say thanks to Will Rays. Thanks, Will.
Will.
We want to say thanks to Alden de Armas.
Alden.
Thanks,
Alden.
Alden. And then a very special thank you to, if you're listening at home and you can't tell, we're wearing these dope 2 Chunks and a Hunk t-shirts created and given to us specially by Colton Kingston. So thank you, Colton Kingston, for these sweet shirts.
Yeah. You can check our shirts out on Instagram. We have an Instagram now.
Oh, yeah, we have an
Follow us
Instagram
there,
now.
hashtag us there, interact with us there, tell us we're doing a good job or a bad job
Or an okay job.
or an okay job.
Tell us that you don't like us.
Yeah.
Tell us that you do like us.
Tell us anything you want to tell us. Instagram at 2 Chunks and a Hunk.
Tell us your secrets.
And if you want to shout out,
Hashtag
hashtag official chunky.
Or do some other stuff. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We might shout you out for doing something that's not hashtag official chunky.
Like
but
making us shirts.
So the guaranteed shout out is hashtag official chunky. Other stuff, like we'll see what happens.
Case by case basis.
If you get a tattoo of 2 Chunks and a Hunk
Ooh.
You get to be on the podcast.
forever,
Like,
you're just
a new host
permanently out.
But you have to sit right here on the table in front of us, cross-legged.
And I'm just gonna.
I don't know. I disagree with you when you think about it. Yeah, tattoo for sure.
Yeah, you're
Tattoo
on
will get you
permanently.
here.
We'll change our name to. We'll change the name of our show to your name if you get
yeah.
2 Chunks and a Hunk.
And we'll change
tattoo.
all of our names to your name as well.
legally.
Yeah.
But yeah, just see what happens. Do some weird stuff with it, and we might shout you out.
If you like what we're doing, tell your friends.
If you don't like what we're doing, still tell your friends.
Yeah.
If you hate what we're doing,
Tell your friends.
why are you still listening to this episode? We're so far into this podcast at this point.
Well,
I guess
that
is
probably
time.
to
Be left out by my friends.
You should have jumped in faster.
I was gonna say something.
let's try it again. Well,
I
Don't
no
if
this.
episode
works
So
maybe
will
just
end.
it.
no.
Bye.
Bye.
But
Bye. Well, the episode's over, but since you're still hanging out here, why don't we toss some information your way?
If you want to be the first to know when we drop new content, like us on Facebook at 2 Chunks and a Hunk. Subscribe to us on YouTube or subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
and if you want a shout out on our next podcast, then hashtag official chunky.
Yeah.
That's CHUNKY.
That's true. That's true. Well, we're done here, but I guess if you want to stay, I mean, we can just
Yeah, keep hanging out.
What was your favorite part of that movie that we just saw? Did you like it?
I bet they did.